Hello world, welcome to my channel, Proteus Augustus. I'm an artist, scientist, and American Constitutionist. Today is April 25th, 2020. In this video, I want to talk about the day I met evil. Reason being, I don't think many of you have actually stood up against it eye to eye to see it for what it is. Hopefully my experience could shed light on why it is that I see it for what it is. Before I do that, I want to tell you a little bit about my personality. In an earlier video called Cult of Personality, I explained my position with respect to innate personality traits. That's my position that all of us are born with certain personality traits due to genetic variation. Those personality traits may be strong, they may be weak, and they may be borderline. Environmental impacts can push you one way or the other, or totally determine who you are as a person, or not at all. Now, I feel fortunate to have been born with the personality traits that I have, that have managed to allow me to survive all these years and to navigate the nefarious characters and situations that I had the unfortunate opportunity to encounter. Of course, I am only one man, but in order to appreciate the evil that I saw on that day, as a scientist, let me give you a baseline of how I was thinking at that time. I was a child. So, given the experiences I've had to date and more information surrounding those circumstances, allows me to put them a little bit more in perspective, but that's not what I was thinking at the time, nor how I was responding with respect to the personality that I was endowed with. There were 3 incidences that occurred to me before the age of 5 that to some people may have determined the course of their existence. However, due to my nature, I saw these incidents as though not favorable to me. They were what they were, and they were experiences that I needed to learn from in order to navigate future pitfalls. And it's important to understand, I grew up in the 60s. So the world was a more, harsher place, if you'd like to call it. People were required to be responsible for themselves. I mean, as a free person, you have to assess risk for yourself. And if things didn't work out the way that you thought they were, well, that's not to blame on a politician or someone else. That was your fault. Okay? Now, the first incident that occurred before the age of 5 was between 4 and 5. My parents were separated, and this was the first time and the only time that I met my father. Now, we were going to have dinner with his girlfriend. That I thought it was his girlfriend. Later on, I found out it was his wife, and he had another kid, and so we had dinner, and it was spinach. I didn't like it, and I wasn't gonna have any of it. I'm like, I don't like that. I don't want to eat it. Well, he's pushing it on me, telling me I have to eat it, that it's good for me. Well, I really didn't know this guy. But what I did know is I don't like this and I ain't having it. So there's really nothing that's going to make me eat this, okay? So he said, well, if you don't eat, I'm going to punish you and you're going to go to your room early. So I said, okay. So he slaps me on the ass, sends me to the bedroom for the night. Okay. I could deal with that. It wasn't like he brutalized me or anything. I was more disappointed in him than anything, because of, why are you doing this? I don't like it, so what? I'll eat something else, right? This is the way I think. Okay, I wasn't going to be fearful. So the next night comes, and he's like, well, you going to have dinner tonight or are you going to not eat? And I'm like, well, what are we having? If you're going to have that spinach again, I don't want it, He goes, well, I ain't going to tell you. It's either going to be the spinach or those wieners you like. Okay? And I'm like, okay, so this is a gamble, right? What I do know is if I don't eat, I can go to my room for the rest of the night and avoid any kind of conflict with him over something I don't like. So I decided to go to the room for the night. Okay, fine. I go to the room for the night, get up in the morning. Oh, yeah, well, you should have had dinner last night. We had those wieners you like, he says. Okay? So, to me as a kid, I'm like, my disposition is different than most people. Okay, I was like, okay. I'm like, well, he's like, well, why didn't you have dinner? I said, well, because I didn't know what you were going to feed me. And I would have rather gone to my room than get whacked on the ass. And he's like, well, you should have trusted me. I'm your father. Now, that was my first lesson. Unbeknownst to me, he was dying. Maybe he was trying to send me a message. And, in hindsight, there was other things that I'm not going to get into here, that may benefit, why he did what he did. But nevertheless, to me it was. I didn't really know him, but what I did know is what's important to me, not what could be. Okay? That's just who I am as a person. Okay? And so the next incident was, before the age of 5, I got hit by a car. It's like, like I said, all the other kids, could walk to school or go to the theater or, go to the store, but my mother wouldn't let me. She was sending my sister, who was 6, and I was 5, so I guess that was her cutoff. I said, well, I'll go with my sister. All right, go with your sister. So the store's only right down to the corner, right? So, a couple of houses, 5, 6 houses maybe, at the bottom of the hill we go. We're standing there, and the lady says, hey, go ahead, cross the street. I'm like, okay. So we're going, she's waving us. And my sister's on the corner and she's saying, no, I don't want to go. And I'm like, why? And she's saying we could go. I don't want to go. I'm like, okay, fine. So I decide I'm going to go. I go, and what ends up happening, I find out later, the guy that was behind, I got tired of waiting. So as I was going by her car, he pulls around from behind her. He whacks me. He takes me about 300 yards, almost kills me. Okay? Or 300 feet, I should say. That's what they said. I don't remember. That's what they said. Fractured skull, almost died, whatever. So that's the second incident before I'm 5 now. Still, I'm saying, is this evil? I'm not thinking evil. I'm thinking, well, that's a bad incident. Was it my fault? What did I do wrong? You know what I'm saying? Because this is the way the world was. If things happen to you like that, then there was something you could have done to prevent that from happening. It wasn't about whether, the person was intending to harm you or not, kind of thing, right? Okay, the third thing before I'm 5, well, I'm right about 5.5 now, is there was some abuse going on, okay? And I'll leave it at that, right? Listen, I am who I am. I'm not ashamed of my past. Things happened to me that were not my fault. I feel no shame. And I didn't feel any shame then because it's not who I am as a person. Okay, fear does not motivate me. Shame does not motivate me. What motivates me is basically knowledge. What knowledge do I need to overcome these obstacles? Like I said, on the way to school, I was walking to school in the 1st grade. Okay, I didn't know people were taking buses. I didn't take no bus. I walked to school. I walked home from school. So the nuns and your parent, and my mother, oh, don't talk to the candy man. Don't talk to any adults. You come straight home. This is how you need to learn how to cross the street. You already been hit once. Okay? Sticks and stones will break your bones. Names will never hurt you. So if some bully tries to taunt you, just ignore him and get yourself home. Okay? These are the obstacles you had to learn in order to get home safely. So the other thing is, real life was real life on TV. Never mind this fake news stuff and this propaganda that's going on now. I mean, the Vietnam War was going on. They were showing you blood and guts every night on TV. I mean, the Kennedys were already killed. Martin Luther King got shot, and I'm like saying to my mother, oh, they killed another one? I mean, it was like, that's the way the world was. People are doing these things. I mean, TV and the movies was nothing like today. There was no gratuitous violence or sex or anything. 8 o'clock prime time on TV was freaking, Batman. Or, and then you got the laughing a couple of years later with some goon tunes. You know what I'm saying? Anyways, so that gives a baseline on how I saw the world. Okay? Unbeknownst to me, all the people were like, hey, how come this kid isn't really social with all these other people? I mean, to me, I was just interested in what I was interested in. I never really had any issue with being in my own mind. I mean, when it came to toys, I was like, okay, how does this work? Now I'm done with it. Back then you got a chemistry set. I mean, a real chemistry set, where you could light shit on fire and stuff, or, things like that, so, I mean, I learned about, oh, this is a little dangerous. I don't know if I want to do it. Anyways, so that's my baseline for you. These bad things happened to me, but I didn't see them as evil because they were either a failure for me to navigate, or this is just the way the world was. These are things that are happening, and you have to learn how to avoid these things for a better outcome for yourself. It wasn't about fear, and it wasn't about pain or pleasure. I mean, I had plenty of pain. You know, I'm fortunate in that, my tolerance for pain is pretty high. It's just another thing that I don't want to get into, but maybe someday I'll get into that. But so that's my baseline. Okay, so now I'm about 6.5. We moved to a new apartment after my accident. Things were going okay, I guess. No major issues. I mean, things were going on. Got stabbed for my first time right here in my hand from some kid. Anyways, that wasn't a big deal to me either. But this was. So as I said earlier, my mother was concerned, that I wasn't the kind of kid that was out there socializing, having a lot of friends and whatnot. And, so she's like, well, there's those two kids across the street. Why don't you go over there and play with those kids? Now, to me, I wasn't into the playing and all that. You know what I mean? I was a little bit more advanced. Like the doctors would say I was precocious. I was interested in things beyond what kids my age were interested in. And, playing was, what are we talking about, right? Well, anyway, so in order to, try to conform with what she wanted, I says, okay, I'll go over there. So I go across the street and I say, hey, my mom and your mother says, maybe we should be friends or whatever. My name's Ron. And, so as it worked out, there was two brothers. One was Carmen and one was Jimmy. And, all right, yeah, he's got that hoop on his garage. We shoot some hoops, for about a half hour. That's it. So, all right, fine, I guess, if you guys want to play hoops, I can come over, get a little exercise with you kind of thing. Go ride our bikes, a couple of times. So, these weren't like day after day. I was like, nah, maybe next week I'll go over there, whatever. I got homework, things like that, right? So, anyways, comes on to this day, and I go over there, and his parents aren't home. Okay, but Carmen and Jimmy are there, and they says, hey, look at what I got. I said, what? And he goes over to an aquarium where he had a lizard, one of them little lizards there. And he said, what do you think about that? I said, well, it's a lizard. It's, I guess it's cool, kind of thing, right? And in my mind, this ain't a pet. This is like a reptile, it's not like a cat or a dog. It's just another animal, that, whatever. It wasn't really interested in it. It's kind of like a turtle. Why have a turtle or a fish? It's not like they're going to come over to you and wag their tail and communicate with you on some level. It's just they're there and you care for them, right? So, anyways, he goes, oh, and he goes, well, let me show you this. We'll go outside and I'll show you what this lizard could do. And, so I'm thinking, okay, so we'll go outside thinking you're going to, like, have some trick or something, right? So he got the lizard on the ground, and the lizard is just, walking around doing his thing. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm saying, this is just lame. This is boring shit. Why do I want to watch some lizard? And I said, well, why don't you put the lizard in the thing and let's shoot some hoops, right? And he's like, well, let me show you something. So he gets on his bike and he pins the lizard's tail with the front tire of his bike. And I'm like, what are you doing? You're gonna hurt the thing. Why don't you just, put it in the the aquarium or whatever it is there. And He goes, no, wait, watch, right? And Jimmy goes, oh yeah, watch what he's gonna do. So I'm sitting there watching, and so what he ends up doing is he proceeds to roll that front tire of his bike up the lizard's tail, all the way up through its body until all the intestines of that lizard come out of its mouth. And I'm in my mind saying, out of all the things I've been through, I have never seen anything like this. I mean, up close, you know, there's something wrong with this person. I mean, it's the first thing I thought of. This is not a normal person. I mean, who does this, right? He looks at me, and the saliva is dripping out of his mouth like he could smell the bloodlust coming off of that animal. And to me, I could smell it myself, but it was disgusting. To him, it was like, I mean, I don't know how more to explain it. It was like he got a thrill out of it. And then Jimmy looks at me and says, yeah, if he does that to that, what do you think he's going to do to you? And I'm like, well, wait a minute. What's going on here? I mean, I had no clue. All I know is I've seen evil today. I mean, the sheer cruelty that this person displayed on this animal was just too much for me to handle. Okay? I mean, I was like, okay, I've had enough of this. I left, I go home, I tell my mother, hey, listen, I ain't going over it anymore. This guy just, did what he did, right? So, to me, that's the first day that I met evil. And in all my years, mutual combat, physically, intellectually, I've seen a lot of bad things happen. I've seen a lot of bad men. Okay, and I know what they've done. But the sheer cruelty that was in this person's mind was something that I have never experienced before. I mean, evil was in the minds of men. It wasn't, I mean, the best way I could explain it was I was never a mystical mind. I mean, I never, believed in things. Things had to be proved to me. But one thing I was quite certain of is, this person was evil. And, as life went on, you look at a guy like Stalin, Mao, Hitler. I was alive when Mao was alive. Okay, so Hitler, he was gone. Stalin, he was gone. Were they the guys that, like this kid Carmen, who just enjoyed the sheer cruelty and the smell of that blood? I think so. Now, I don't know how this boy turned out, but I would be very surprised if he managed. Listen, there's nothing that could have happened to me in my life that would turn me into that kind of human. It's just impossible. I mean, you can beat me, you could do whatever you're gonna do to me, but I would never ever do anything like that. The sheer cruelty. So that's the day I met evil, and today we're seeing it play itself out again with Chi and the CCP. I mean, these people are dissecting live human beings for their organs and then discarding them like trash. And the world is just sitting back watching it happen. This has been going on for years. Okay, why were these people, just feeding this evil, And so now we are where we are. And what are we going to do about it? I'm just one man. I don't have the mechanisms of government or power to do anything. But what I can tell you is a time is coming soon where the free men in this world are going to have to stand up to that evil and use whatever means necessary to destroy it. See it for what it is and destroy it. It's as simple as that. There is no other way. So, until then, think free and be free.